With so much uncertainty happening in the world around us, there's a lot of you out there who are getting into gardening, thinking about putting your first plants in the ground. And so I wanted to talk about a few of the keys that I found to make a very successful garden. So we'll go ahead and get right to those if the birds will quiet down a little bit. I'm sitting here next to some collard greens that have gone to seed. These are home safe seed. But the very first tip that I have when it comes to beginning a garden is figure out what plants you really love. There's no point in growing a huge garden filled with plants that you're not going to eat. It's demoralizing, it's really not fun, and really turns into be a bit of a waste of time. So figure out what plants you love. Tip number 2 is decide if it's going to be feasible to grow some of your favorite plants in your garden. Now, this could be dependent on your experience, the amount of space you have, and also the time of year you're beginning to garden. But if you figure out those things, you'll have a vast amount of options to choose from in growing out your very first garden. Tip number 3 is figure out a way to make gardening as simple and easy as possible. Now, you can always go to extremes, one way or the other, but finding ways to maybe automate, like using something like drip irrigation, or using something like trellises for these peas that I have growing, are great ways to not only make it more easy, more automated to grow vegetables, but also it's going to ensure you have a much better crop because you're going to be putting a lot of time and energy into your garden. Make sure you get the most out of it. The next tip I have is use the space you have to the best of your ability. This could be something like containers that I have here. Now, I'm using these containers for herbs like mint because I don't want that spreading roots and taking over my full garden. But when I first got started gardening, it was in Lincoln, Nebraska. We were renting a home. I wasn't able to use the yard, but we did have a driveway. And I set up a 5-gallon bucket garden and we ate all our tomatoes, peppers, and some leafy greens out of those buckets. So use the space you have wisely. A key factor in gardening and a tip that you should really remember is don't be afraid to fail. Expect it. Now, I'm sitting here with some radishes that I grew that I had under cover and I accidentally let them go a little bit too long. Now, the bulbs were probably okay, but because they were under cover, they got too hot and they went straight to seed, rendering the root almost unusable by the time I found them. Now, I'm a more experienced gardener, but I still make mistakes. As a beginning gardener, you are too. Don't be afraid to fail. Reach out a little bit farther, extend yourself, and good things will happen. The last and most important tip that I have when it comes to gardening is this: have fun. You're gonna be spending a lot of time, energy, possibly money on your garden. Now, you're gonna have some great produce. You're gonna be able to eat some healthy, homegrown food, but just have fun. If something fails, that's okay. Think about it. I say the best thing about a garden is there's always next year. So if something doesn't go as planned, that's okay, because there's probably something that's going to grow even better than you were expecting. So get out there, have some fun, get your hands dirty, play in the soil, and grow a garden this year. I really hope that you guys found this video helpful. I'm excited to share kind of the transformation of the garden, how everything's going, and also some of my favorite tips as things get growing through this 2020 growing season. So for today's video, I really hope you enjoyed it. I hope that you get gardening, and let me know your major questions that you have for gardening in the comments below, and I'd be so glad to answer them. I will see you in another video very soon.